There are 4 types of abilities in the entire game, but the main abilities are the ones that distinguish each hero from each other. You always use them during the battle, and as such you need to know what are the strongest and weakest abilities. That's why I will be ranking all of them for you in a tier list from the best to the worst, based on several different things, like their overall flexibility or the variety of situations that they are good in. And of course, how reliable are they at doing anything in a given battle? So you can know which one has the most impact and is easiest to use, and which one is situational and very hard to get value with. The first ability that I can think of as soon as I try to look for the best abilities right now in the game is Shadow Step by Vi. I don't believe it's broken, more than hard to counter, it's simply another level of complexity. However, the fact that it doesn't have a cooldown same as other abilities, and you cannot take damage while dashing makes it so easy to spam, which is truly annoying. There are so many things to this main ability that make it so strong. However, the main reason is the fact it can break through enemies' defenses easily. The next ability that is not only the best, but one of the easiest abilities ever to use as well. I'm sure you are already familiar with it, and that would be the shield. It can be helpful in so many gunfight situations, and it's generally good for rushing, which is everyone's favorite playstyle in the game. I mean, pushing enemies in the early game can provide you a lot of advantages. In addition to that, the shield is very easy to pull off and very reliable at doing what it needs to do. I don't believe this ability has a downside, as you always will get a good amount of value no matter what. The next ability we have on our list is Rampage by Ramsey, which, in my personal opinion, is genuinely one of the most powerful abilities right now. Yes, you can still counter Ramsey's ability with Ball Lightning, which kinda makes it pretty balanced to me, especially after the devs decided to make Ramsey can't destroy force fields, which just gave Rampage's ability another downside. However, it's still considered a solid ability with massive effects. Blink is next, and I must say it looks pretty basic and simple, but it's full of surprises. And by surprises, I mean it requires high skills, of course, to get value out of it in the best situations. It's not just jumping from one area to another, but you can also deal some damage when landing, or give warnings to your enemies because of the sound it makes when you tap the ability button. Without mentioning that it's versatile, you can use it to escape or to ambush your enemies, and the list goes on. The next up in the best abilities tier is Thermal ability on Levi and Slayer. This main ability used to be fantastic in the past. We all know that, and it's still one of the best. But there is an extra layer of difficulty with it due to the new heroes. However, if you have good map awareness, like where the fights are most of the time, and you can predict enemy players' movements, then it's super useful, and you can easily get kills. Now, the next one is a bit of skillful ability. It's one of the hardest abilities actually to counter as well. I mean, let's be honest, who doesn't think twice before rushing Blot or Satoshi? Force Field is a multitasking ability that you can use not only to protect yourself from incoming damage, but also, if you know how to deploy it properly, you can do some crazy, intelligent tricks. It's basically one of the alpha abilities that might be a bit difficult to deal with, but it definitely makes opponents get worried about countering it, as you can take an area and the enemy can't do anything about it. Moving next, we have the Scan ability. You can see it being used in almost every battle, and that's enough proof of how good it is. The reason why I find the Scan ability very good is because it's not only helpful for your hero, but also for your team. The only downside about this ability is that other players can see the scan waves, which can result in making your enemies more alert to your moves. That's why you have to be careful with it and learn when and where to scan. The previous abilities that are in the best tier are more like strategy drivers, as all of them can dictate the whole strategy for a match. This means they are the win condition. You just have to be aware of what you are doing, as you may have noticed. The scan ability, on the other hand, is more of a support ability, just like the next category of abilities that I'm going to talk about, which are in the middle tier. Without any further ado, let's hop right away to the next tier. These are abilities that are legitimately good, but they do have situations where sometimes they don't work or there is some downside to them. First off is the portal gun ability. You can use this ability to teleport into some locations to get more advantages over the enemy or to speed up your hero's movements. But the best part yet is simply teleporting to another site and giving shockwaves to your enemy, which reduces his speed, making him an easy target. And as much as I want to say it's the best ability, unfortunately, if you have no idea what are you doing, or in case you don't have enough information, then you will end up just killing yourself. And that's why this ability needs to be extremely careful. The next ability we have is Ball Lightning, which can be defined as a source of power, meaning it's not only good to use on enemies, but also on your own hero and team to reduce the incoming damage. And if you merge two balls lightning, there will be a huge explosion that will deal huge damage to everyone in the explosion area, which is just amazing and super powerful at the same time. But you have to watch out for knocking yourself out. Next, we have one of those vintage abilities in the game, but nobody really gave it the recognition it deserves. It's the Suppression of Fire by Bertha. This ability allows you to shoot for far distances and for long durations. And it has also some super useful side effects, such as slowing down enemies' movement speed and increasing your hero's vision. But you have to be careful while using it as it makes loud noises, and you can't move while the ability is activated. Moving next to Lynx and her main Rains of Arrows ability. Lynx's ability can be a bit tricky and useless, but if you are a very quick player, you can very quickly assess what's going on in the fight, or even finish a fight with just one click by using Rain of Arrows, which most of the time deals so much damage. It's not completely cracked, but it's an ability that can win you some rounds, especially if you can use creativity in your playstyle. Moving along, we have Invisibility. It's one of the most fun abilities, honestly, that you could ever use. You will be always at risk. However, if you manage to be stealthy enough to approach your enemies, you can get a lot of advantages over your enemies with this ability. You can either gather information for your team or perform some crazy, sneaky attacks and hit your opponents where it hurts, but as long as you don't get caught. As this ability has one annoying encounter, and that's a bullet. If a bullet touched you while invisible, it will cancel your invisibility. Next, we gotta talk about Missile Launcher ability. Now, this tier, or this category, as you may like to call it, is full of abilities that are equal to weapons. Just like you heard, I'm not literally saying they are bad, but they have very specific conditions to be effective in battle, as they constantly require you to keep going and make facilities for them so they can be useful. The same as the first ability we have, the Missiles Launcher by Smog and Doc. This ability is pretty good against shields and force fields, or to finish an escaping enemy, but you need to learn how to perfect your timing, otherwise it will be just a waste. And the opponent might maneuver you, which will put you in a bad situation. Next, we have the Fire Hunter ability from Shenji. It's similar to the previous ability. In fact, it's somehow a combination of the rocket and grenade mixed together, except its effect time is much longer and deals some extra damage while slowing enemies. The main reason I have given it such a rank is because you can easily avoid it. As long as you don't touch the fire hunter, it won't open and spread hot lava. However, if you are the ability user, make sure you don't get stuck, because it takes a lot of space on the map, which might trap you at some corner. Now as for the turret's ability, it's just the same as for Fire Hunter to me, as it's easy to skip even when a shield has been added to it. I feel it's still a wacky ability that requires a lot of planning in order to use it properly, and it might not work out as you have planned. Although it can be so useful as a decoy and gives you map area control easily, it can be tricky as only one small mistake can make you lose all your area control. Finally, the grenade ability. Look, I know there are so many of you loyal to this ability, but let's face it. How many times have you popped this ability? Or should I say one of your teammates died immediately because of one of your grenades? It's not the only reason, but also this ability is honestly a mixed bag where sometimes to make it useful is to use it in situations that are just unwinnable. Or invest all your grenades in those situations where you meet some hard campers that refuse to move.